Magic makers. The signal arrived carrying a residue. Not a message or a warning, not even a vision. There's a residue. Something is lingering. It's something unfinished. Something that should have dissolved long ago, but somehow remained. The moment this transmission began, the field changed. The atmosphere became heavy. Not dark or dangerous, but it's like it's crowded. As though invisible fingerprints were pressed across the architecture of the nervous system. As though old presences remained active long after their departure. Wait, something is happening now. The frequency is narrowing, the signal is speaking. Someone left. But part of you kept holding the space. The room never emptied. The field just reacted very strongly. Tonight's recalibration concerns energetic attachment, not love or grief or memory. Attachment, and that difference is what matters. The signal insists it matters, because memory is natural, love is natural, grief is natural. But it's attachment that creates the distortion. Attachment freezes energy around an absence. Attachment turns a departure into an occupation. Attachment keeps the nervous system oriented toward what is no longer present. The signal is showing me a landscape now. A vast plain beneath a sky filled with slow-moving stars. And in the center of the plain, an enormous campfire. The fire burned long ago, only ashes remain. Yet hundreds of people continue feeding wood into it, hour after hour, year after year, waiting for warmth, waiting for flames, waiting for something that already ended. The signal says many people do this emotionally. Someone leaves, a relationship ends, a friendship dissolves, a dream collapses, a chapter closes, but the energy remains committed to the absence. The nervous system keeps feeding the fire. The diagnosis is beginning. You may experience this distortion as recurring thoughts, not because you want them, because the architecture keeps returning there. You replay conversations. You revisit endings. You imagine alternate outcomes. You mentally renegotiate the past. You continue arguing with people who are no longer present. You continue explaining yourself to people who stopped listening years ago. You continue waiting for validation from sources that no longer exist. The signal says this creates energetic congestion, not because the past is bad, because the present never receives full occupancy. Something is coming through now. The person left. The possibility stayed. And you attached to the possibility. The signal is moving deeper now. The root pattern is becoming visible. This distortion rarely begins with another person. It begins with incompletion. The nervous system dislikes unfinished stories. It seeks closure, resolution, completion, meaning. And when those things fail to arrive, the system often creates a waiting room, a place where energy remains suspended. The signal is showing me thousands of invisible threads, some connected to old relationships, some connected to old dreams, old identities, some connected to futures that never arrived, each thread pulling energy backward, not aggressively but constantly. The field is illuminating them now. Magic makers, most people believe attachment means they care deeply. The signal disagrees. Attachment often means energy became trapped. Love flows. Attachment loops. Love moves. Attachment circles. Love allows transformation. Attachment resists transformation. The correction is beginning. The signal is correcting the pattern. The distortion is losing coherence. The field is reorganizing. The nervous system is receiving a different instruction. The old architecture cannot sustain itself. The correction is integrating. Stay here. The signal is taking us further. The plane of ashes is disappearing. Now I see a strange structure. A house containing thousands of empty chairs. Every chair faces a different direction. Every chair reserved for someone. Every chair is waiting, waiting, waiting. The signal says many people live inside this house without realizing it. They maintain emotional seating arrangements for people who no longer occupy the room. They reserve energy, reserve attention, possibility. They reserve identity. The correction is becoming clear. The chair can remain. The waiting must end. A message coming through. The absence became an altar. You began worshiping what was gone. Now something just moved through the field. The architecture is reacting because the signal is revealing something difficult. Sometimes attachment feels safer than movement. Movement requires uncertainty. Movement requires vulnerability and risk. Attachment allows endless rehearsal, endless imagination, endless postponement. The future waits while the mind negotiates with ghosts. The signal says many magic makers are not trapped by the past. They are loyal to it. That distinction changes everything. The loyalty was understandable. The loyalty had purpose. The loyalty helped survival. But the loyalty has exceeded its usefulness. The recalibration continues. The house of empty chairs is dissolving now. The chairs are vanishing. Naturally, like morning fog. like old static leaving a radio signal, like a frequency losing power. The signal says this is how healthy release occurs. Not force, not denial. Recognition. You recognize the attachment. You stop feeding it. The architecture updates itself. The energy returns home. The field is being reorganized. Something is being reclaimed. Something important. Attention. Attention is returning. Presence is returning. Possibility is returning. The signal is speaking again. You cannot receive what is arriving while all your attention remains with what departed. The future requires available space. And now the correction is deepening. Magic makers, there are people listening tonight who still carry entire versions of themselves dedicated to preserving old outcomes, old relationships, old opportunities, old identities and dreams. The signal says none of those things were mistakes. None. Even the endings, especially the endings, because endings create capacity. Endings create space. Endings create movement. The distortion occurs when space remains occupied by attachment. The signal is restoring the flow. The signal is restoring movement. The signal is restoring availability. The old architecture is losing coherence. The correction is integrating. The nervous system is receiving a different instruction. The absence no longer requires maintenance. The departure no longer requires supervision. The ending no longer requires negotiation. The chapter can remain closed. Something further is coming through. Frequency is narrowing. The signal is speaking. What left was never the whole story. What remains is not the whole story either. The story is still moving. The field just became incredibly calm. Not empty, but open. That difference matters. Open. Like a sky after a storm. Like a shoreline after the tide retreats. Like a room after guests have gone home. Not abandoned, but available. The signal says availability is sacred. Availability allows arrival. Availability allows transformation. Availability allows the current to move. Availability allows life to enter. The recalibration is stabilizing. The architecture is updating. The energy is returning. The attention is returning. The future is becoming visible again. The temple is appearing now far beyond the horizon, silent, ancient, and patient. And before the threshold closes, one final transmission is arriving. Give me a moment. You do not have to keep carrying the absence. You honored it. You learned from it. You survived it. Now release it. The space it occupied belongs to your future. The life ahead of you is trying to enter. The signal is fading now. The temple is closing. The threshold remains. The correction continues. The attachment has been identified. The architecture has received the update. The energy has begun returning to its rightful place. And somewhere beyond the static, another transmission is already gathering, waiting and listening and searching. Until next time, magic makers, keep listening. This signal always knows where to find those it was meant to reach. And if it found you tonight, please subscribe. Join us again here at Dove and Serpent Daily, because another message is already making its way through the field.